World War II was the most deadliest human conflict that the world has ever known. Born out of this conflict was violence, death, and aggression, with an end result of the death of over 60 million people. Many friendships were established, and as a result made the world a safer place to live in. An inspiring event in history, which took place on April 25, 1945, will mark the meeting of two world powers from the Western and Eastern Front. Soldiers and leaders of both armies greeted each other with warm hearts and gave a sense of unity. 2 weeks later, Germany surrendered conditionally to the Allied forces on May 7, 1945, and the war in Europe was officially over.
This is a solemn but glorious hour. I wish that Franklin D. Roosevelt had lived to see this day. General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The flags of freedom fly all over Europe.
The Big Three met at Potsdam to discuss the future of Europe and what would be in store for it. But Stalin and President Truman had conflicting ideas and thus remained hostile to each other. But what made these two powers so hostile to each other after a time of unity and peace? The United States and the Soviet Union are polar opposites politically, culturally, and economically. America favors a capitalist and democratic system based on free markets, individualism, and consumerism, while the Soviet Union, a one-party state, focuses on the commonwealth of a nation based on government-owned business and infrastructure. After the war, both of these nations sought to spread their ideals to a broken Europe, and thus the Cold War began.
From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent.
Although not a direct war, the war involved political, social, and foreign tensions through proxy wars.
I shall recommend to the Congress that additional funds be provided for this purpose. This is of great importance. The free nations face a worldwide threat. It must be met with a worldwide defense.
To take all necessary measures in support of freedom and in defense of peace in Southeast Asia.
Massive Soviet military forces have invaded the small, non-aligned, sovereign nation of Afghanistan.
One key detail to understanding history is perspective. I took the liberty to interview the grandmother of my friend who lived in the Soviet Union from 1941 to 1981.
I'm Ina Strauss. I was born in a former Soviet Union. Now it's a country, separate country, Azerbaijan, in the city Baku. I was born in 1941. My close family, it was my mom, my dad, and we are 3 siblings. My father, he served in a Polish army that was organized on a territory of the Soviet Union, and he went to Berlin. He was in Berlin in the 45. My brother, he was in the army. He was in the Air Force, also for 2 years after college.
Growing up in the Soviet Union was very different than in the United States. Children were thought to think a certain way and not really think much at all.
Life in the Soviet Union was restricted for everybody. It was a certain strict rules that was in the behavior, in the family life, in everything set by party.
Propaganda was spread through literature, schooling, and films. Although censorship was very common to maintain a one-party state.
Kids, they went through 10-year school. When they finished 7 year of education at school, and organize a committee to see who can continue education and finish the 10th year education, and or they have to be kicked out from the school. They were saying that there is no real freedom in America. They just freedom for rich people, that they kill black people, militaristic country. They just want a war when it's opposite. The Soviet Union just wanted to spread their communist teaching all over the world by any means.
On one early morning on March 5th, 1953, Joseph Stalin died from a stroke. Ina was in school that day. She had a lot to say about this moment.
When Stalin died, all country cried, and they were not sad to say that they were like completely lost. They thought that it's the end of the life. That's it, without Stalin. I found out about Stalin's life when I was at school. We were told by our teachers. We were cried all together. And when I came home crying, my mom asked me, "Why are you crying?" I said, "Oh, Stalin died." And she said, "Oi, come, silly girl." And I saw that they not sad at all, that my mom, she baked pie, and we had a good dinner with the pie. It says something, right? But they didn't say that anything about that. It was good for us or countries that he died.
As Ina's life went on, she was planning on being a school teacher, but what motivated her to come here was her family. Ina came to America in 1981 to pursue her dreams as a teacher, meet up with a family, and create a better life for her son. She became a teacher in Philadelphia, teaching math, science, and physics. In 1991, Ina's home country finally fell as a result of poor leadership, economic problems, and civil unrest.
I thought that it was for good, because it was a great empire, and too many people were particularly in republics, Soviet republics. They didn't belong to Russian influence. They had their way of living. It's a different ethnic, different kind of life, and they didn't need the supervision of an older brother, Russian, that comes from Moscow. I think it was just for good.
Recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. You